Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast. Here, episode 54, and also our birthday. And more about that later. Ewan has baked a cake, and this is, of course, where we talk about all things that's happened in the world of cycling last week, and also look a bit into the future. And as always, I'm joined by Patrick Blake of Outdo Cycling and Mr. Career himself, Ewan Wilson. And I mean, guys, big news of this week: Lewis Hamilton going to Ferrari. Sorry, wrong podcast.
Oh, wow. You were literally saying that we should do some kind of weird crossover just to get that involved, but no, still, this is a cycling podcast.
There is a link, though. There is a link. Yeah.
There was a weird crossover this week because Tadej Pogacar came across someone,
Carlos Sainz
on a ride, and also in the past, who's your Monegasque one? Charles Leclerc has gone on a little group ride with Bahrain Merida back in 2018-19 as well. So there are links, and Valtteri Bottas has a strong link to the Pro Peloton, does a number of UCI gravel events. So don't even try to say they aren't connected.
I mean, his wife is a pro cyclist.
Yeah,
that is very true. Thank you, Scott.
F1 fans and cycling fans will come to realise that they have more in common than they realise. We all love a little bit of gossip. We all love a little bit of a little bit of drama going on. And we all love rooting for an underdog and then being severely disappointed.
Baked in with a lot of nepotism and upper class professionals.
Yeah,
very rich backgrounds.
And like a family lineage as well. We love that as well. It's just the same sport. We love aerodynamics. Well, some people do.
Very familiar with the Dutch national anthem.
At least if you're a cyclocross fan.
I'm pretty sure you baked the cake not because it's our birthday episode, it's because it's the end of cyclocross on the podcast until the end of the season.
I have never been so happy to see the back end of the cyclocross season. It hasn't enticed me for a number of years, and this season did not disappoint. And I think this World Championship weekend was a perfect manifestation of this year in cyclocross. Everyone you expected to win won.
Yeah, legit.
I wonder what the odds were for Mathieu winning, because it was a pretty boring race, and the pressure on him must have been weird, because it's like, you have to win. Like, everyone's basically saying you've won this already before you even turn the first pedal stroke.
But he didn't disappoint. I mean, wow, not on the start list either. I mean, that's like his closest competitor. So, it wasn't really close, really. Van Tornout does kind of seem to pull out a good performance. Van Tornout came third. Or was it Nieuwenhuis came second? He's had a very good season, to be fair. I thought we might as well just get the cyclocross bit just kind of done with.
I am a little bit disappointed we didn't get Pim Ronhaar on the final podium. He's had a banging season. It would have been cool to see him get a medal here, because he's really been one of the standouts of the past couple months in cyclocross. More than Van Tornout, I would say.
For sure. Van Tornout's just been like he won European champs and then he's come third in a world champ. So it's like he really turns it on the big stage, but all the other kind of World Cup races, it's like he sort of just realised that he wasn't really even contending for the World Cup win against the likes of Isabit and co. And just sort of checked out of that and just decided to focus on just the big events, which, to be fair, pretty decent move. It's worked out because he's won European champs and finished third today in the men's race. So I think that's pretty good. It's better than finishing fourth place in all the other World Cup races, which nobody will be able to remember.
Speaking of checking out, a rider in top 10 at a home race, Michael Borov of the Czech Republic. Good result for him. He's never really come, anywhere near a major World Cup victory or anything. So this is quite cool to see him get top 10 here at his home World Championships, which also saw the end of Zdeněk Štíbal's career. The Czech rider who has been cyclocross world champion did not get a road contract either for the next year. And there is some form of symmetry as well for Van der Poel. He won his first cyclocross world championships in Tabor, and then winning the sixth again in the Czech city is quite a nice little piece of symmetry.
It's a shame to see Štíbal go. He's kind of been a bit of a mainstay. Him and Van Avermaet and Sagan kind of phasing out was the 2016 dominant era of the classics. And it's a bit of a shame that we're kind of just seeing those guys phasing out now in the new era of cycling classic dominance through all the big names that we've talked about so much.
Is it the new era, or we're kind of getting towards this new era? Because Mathieu van Aert, they're not getting younger.
Well,
I would say it's a consolidation of the post-COVID cycling era in a way. because we had that big paradigm shift, I think, in 2020, 2021. There's been a consolidation in the past maybe 2 years of that paradigm shift. And some riders now...
Not in cyclocross.
Well,
Not in
okay.
cyclocross.
In cyclocross, a little bit, but like we're talking about like mainstays as well in the pro peloton, like your like Anton Avermaets, Pinos, and so forth, like who you mentioned. So yeah, I think this weekend was incredibly predictable in the men's, the women's, in all the youth races as well. You know, if you put a gun to my head and asked me to predict a winner, I probably could have got all of them correct. That's not a humble brag. That is just plain obvious if you've watched any moment. Well, even if you've seen the results of a cyclocross race in 2023/24, it was a bit underwhelming. I'd be intrigued to see what the sort of viewing figures were for these races because, yeah, I think the only one that got a bit of a surprise was the relay event, that silly little team relay thing that was won by France in the end, and actually quite a close sprint between France and Great Britain. I guess that was the only real surprise of the week. Every other race, it kind of felt like a done deal from lap one.
You weren't so good at predicting. You should just start selling your tips on Twitter like everybody else does.
Well, I mean, sorry, but like, which guy is paying like £50 to have like access to these cyclocross predictions tips? When it's like the best rider in the men's world, best rider in the women's world, best rider in the under 23s in both categories. Like, it was so obvious who was going to win all these races.
Do you think that was maybe the course as well? Because it wasn't particularly... Could have been harder.
But then if it's harder, does that not also enforce bigger gaps? Because you have bigger differences in the riders. Like if Van der Poel is we know he is the strongest anyway, but if it's a harder course with all these different obstacles, maybe that makes him win by even more.
Yeah, he's just gonna win.
just a hot dog circuit on grass. Just do grass league, and then that's cyclocross. Just no technical corners at all, because then maybe they'll have a shot. Nobody will probably beat Van der Poel even at that point.
Sure, if Saudi Arabia or the United Arab Emirates bids for a cyclocross world championship, that might be what it looks like.
Speaking of which, the Alula Tour.
Yes.
Oh god.
The newly named Alula Tour, formerly known as the Saudi Tour, which, okay, I was its cheerleader last week. I'm not being paid by them. I wouldn't be surprised if they were bankrolling someone to give them good promo, but it was an okay week of racing. I'm going to say that. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't amazing. The first stage was won by Casper van Uden of Team DSM Feminic Post NL, Breathe. Second stage was won by Søren Vadenscholden in an almost symmetrical finish to last year that he took the same stage win on. Tim Merlier won stage 3 and 4, interestingly with one of the longest sprints we've seen in a sprint finish over the past couple of years. He had to sprint for over 20 seconds in the finale, which is mightily impressive if you know sprinting statistics. And the final stage where everything was fought out at the Sky Views of Harat Uraid. That was won by Simon Yates in a little sprint between William Leclerc, who's had a lot of hype over the past year, ahead of Finn Fisher-Black as well from UAE Team Emirates, who has been going from strength to strength over the past 12 months. So interesting results there at the Alula Tour, which meant that the home team, in quotation marks, Simon Yates took the overall win ahead of William Leclerc and Finn Fisher-Black in third. And interestingly, Bora Hansgrohe's new signing, Mathieu Sombrero, came in fourth place. There we go. Also, Brian Coquard got a top 10 in this race. Isn't that impressive?
Yeah, he's just very surprisingly good at climbing. It's very easily slept on as to how good the climber Coquard can be. So I'll be honest with you, I tuned into like minute highlights of this race because I was just like, yeah, sprint. I am kind of surprised on stage 5 that Simon Yates won, like when Micah and Finn Fisher-Black were in that front group for UE. I would have thought they would have maybe done some 1-2 attacks to at least kind of challenge it, but it looks like they just kind of like rode as a 4 and just were hoping to beat Yates in a sprint with Finn Fisher-Black, I guess. But I don't know. That's just kind of like bye-bye. You know, you could just hire me as a consultant to kind of give this kind of advice post-race. Anyway, you can cut out if you want. But yeah, I don't know. Simon Yates wins after not winning the Tour Down Under. I guess this is a decent consolation considering that Alula is a big backer of the Jacob Alula team, obviously. Would you think that the team would have preferred the Tour Down Under win or this win? Which one do you reckon is more important?
think they were even more confident about Tour de Lande when they were talking about it pre-race as well, saying they have a chance to win every single stage in that race. It didn't come to anything. I was intrigued to see how underwhelming they were in the sprints, however, during that week of racing. Nowhere to be seen, really. Instead, Tim Merlier really, kind of wiped the floor clean in that category, which points towards good things for him this year. Once again, raises questions about his Grand Tour starts as well this year, because he's accepted the fact that he's not going to the Tour de France. Where does that place him for a Grand Tour start? Does he go to the Vuelta? Does he go to the Giro? We don't quite know.
Do you want to talk more about Saudi Arabia, or do you want to move on to Vuelta, La Community Tour Valencia?
Probably Valencia, I
Yeah.
guess, because there wasn't Alula Tour wasn't super interesting in terms of its racing. I don't think it gave away too much about how the season's going to pan out. I think Valenciana was a more interesting race with a higher caliber of riders.
Yeah, you got something right, Patrick. You predicted Matej Moric to take a win, and he won it.
I did. Well, hang on, before we quickly go on to that, I would like to point out, people talk about Rampas Inhumanas and stuff like this at this time of year. I would like to clarify, I think we need to have a bit of a categorization as to what Rampas Inhumanas means. I think, for me, people are like, it's 16%, it's Rampas Inhumanas. It's not really, because, I ride up a hill, what's 16%? I'm not a pro.
No, but
I think
it's
it's
16%,
like 25%.
A couple kilometers, then that's Inhumanas.
Yeah, that's different.
Well, yeah, but people like this Saudi Tour thing is Rampas Inhumanas because it's got one little hairpin which is steep. And I'm like, bro, is it really though? Is it really Rampas Inhumanas? Send them up Rosedale Chimney. They'll freaking know what Rampas Inhumanas is then. Anyway, sorry, rant over. Rampas Inhumanas needs to have a bit more of a logistical. Where does it start?
30%.
30%. Okay, that might be a little bit too much. I was going to
What?
I just think that people say it's 12%, it's Rampas Inhumanas. I just don't think it is better. Sorry. Valenciana. Just because people said that this included Rampas Inhumanas on stage 4 when it didn't. But it kind of did because it was lasted for a long time. But anyway, sorry. Where were we? Mohoric.
You predicted that right, yeah.
I did. I said that he was going to attack him at descent, and he did. And everybody knew that he was going to do it, and nobody could stop him, and he won anyway. So that's pretty impressive.
Let's just take this one chronologically. Stage 1 was a fantastic affair for the now known VF crew, formerly known as Bardiani CSF. They took a 1-2 with Alessandro Tonelli and Manuele Tarozzi, despite the fact that they almost went the wrong way around a roundabout with a couple kilometers to go. Stage 2, as you mentioned, went to Matej Moric on a descent. Jonathan Milan won a sprint on stage 3. Stage 4 went to Brandon McNulty after battling it out with Santiago Buitrago and Sasha Vlasov on the Rampas Inhumanas Asterix. And finally, on the final day, Will Barta managed to outsmart the peloton to take a final stage win ahead of the sprinting Jonathan Milan behind. This meant that Brandon McNulty took the overall win ahead of Santiago Buitrago and Sasha Vlasov. Also in top 10 includes Alessandro Tonelli, surprisingly, who finished in 4th place. 5th to Jai Hindley, 6th to Poel Bilbao. They're only really the guys of note that we should really mention. However, I will say Paul Double, who was on the sinking ship that was Human Powered Health, had a fantastic Tour of Slovenia last year and the year before. He moved to Porticometa very quietly and managed to get 11th place here at GC, so fair play to him.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, what's the name? Lonardi had some very good sprints for Porticometa as well. I think he finished 3rd and 2nd in some sprints, which I know it's not the highest quality sprinting field we've got here, but, results are results. Porticometa, despite their slightly odd kids, have pulled out some decent results this week. So, fair play. Chapeau.
Yeah, Jonathan Milan getting a first stage join for his new team as well. That's something to shout about.
Especially since he said going into this race that he was just he wasn't sure what his legs were like, and he was just going to sort of, test it out and just kind of see what the sensations were. And then he wins, and he seems to just be climbing it spectacularly well too. Getting over that climb on stage 5, which Will Barta won. That was 5 kilometers at 9%, which again is not Rampas Inhumanas. And he made that when lots of other sprinters were dropped, and I just think that's really impressive that he was able to do that for a guy who's just he's big. This is like a Kittel-esque rider, and Kittel wouldn't have made that in the past. So this show, this new breed of sprinters, is just mental.
Also, it was cool to see Milan and Consonni link up, track mates in the Italian national team. They've not been teammates, at least at the professional level, in the past. And seeing them link up here was really cool and very successful. So that could point towards a new little sprinting duo dynamic that we have here. Consonni, I think, in his nature, could be a fantastic lead-out man. Didn't quite provide that at Cofidis when he was there. Had some chances for himself, but now I think in that role, he could be really influential. And he knows Milan very well, as I mentioned, from his from their joined track background. Maybe Lidl Trek in the off-season will try to get Elia Viviani as well to join that squad, or Pippo Ganna, just to sort of round out the Italian track racing team.
That would be pretty cool.
I mean, Brendan McNulty, we were talking about it last week, and then it just goes from like relatively obscurity. We don't know if he's doing the Tour or the Giro, and then bang, just wins the Tour Valenciana. I think that was pretty cool.
It's super cool because he is the kind of guy who definitely has these kind of results in him, but doesn't necessarily get the opportunity to chase it out. And it was super cool to see him have this chance here, because it would have been easy for the team to say, Felix Groscharner, you go for it. You kind of won these races and beat him.
No. Groscharner is not better than McNulty. Come on, Fitz. Come on, Fitz.
Track record.
Groscharner is like a top Grand Tour contender from back in the day.
Yes, come on.
In the Vuelta.
Yeah, in the Vuelta.
Come on.
It's a Grand Tour. That's when it was slandering the Vuelta.
Oh, yes.
Outrageous, Scott.
In the Tour? Has he guided up Jonas Vingegaard and Tabagacha? No.
That's because they just sit in a cryo chamber and get brought to the Tour in like a layer of cling film and bubble wrap. Like, Jonas isn't seen for any single interesting race.
Why are we talking? We're not talking about Jonas right now.
Well, we can always link back to Jonas. Always can. Listen, it's a well-proven concept. What were we even talking about?
McNulty getting the win. Which, to be fair, cool. I kind of shat on McNulty being,
Didn't you call him McFulty?
I did. I did say he wasn't quite cut out for GC leadership roles. That didn't date very well. It only took one week for that comment to age badly. I think Patrick was more showing his case, and as we used to go about him having maybe the chance to lead teams at these kind of smaller races.
Yeah, Patrick, weren't you saying that this was the UAE 200 IQ move here that they're gonna?
And I was laughed at.
Yeah, that's true.
Who's laughing?
By both of us.
By two people. I would not be. I mean, I'm just looking. The only other race that McNulty has down, just to kind of round this up, is Paris-Nice. That's the only race he's got down for. There's Remco going here, and there's no like. I don't think there's any Pogacar here, and I don't think there's any Jonas here either. I think it would be really interesting to see if McNulty could convert this into a Paris-Nice podium finish. I think that would be a good progression.
Yeah. Also, looking at his previous performances as well, he went really well this part of the year in 2022. Had a really strong start to the year with the winner trophy at Calvia in Mallorca rather. And then another podium as well in the Mallorca Classics. Then went on to do well in Algarve, finishing second. Won the Fonardèche Classic in the Rhone Valley in France. Went on to win a stage at Paris-Nice. Maybe it's kind of replicating that form. He was good in 2022, but didn't really lead any teams that year. So maybe it's going to be a similar fate. But that year, at least, he went to the Tour de France. But unless something miraculous happens, I don't think he will go to the Tour de France. Also, by the way, his pro cycling stats is number 4 rider this year so far. Fourth place, Brandon, that's good. Stop the count.
Oh no, Jonas is washed. He's not even on there. He was Taddy. Everything's just a complete lie.
I mean, we might as well switch our focus over to France. Etoile de Besseges, obviously. Great result for Mads Pedersen, but Ewan, what happened in the race?
Well, the stars of Besseges, the Etoile de Besseges, began in chaotic form. Stage 1 was cancelled, due to farmer protests. You can Google this. This is a widespread French thing that happened this week where farmers protested all across the country. That cancelled stage 1, which, not going to lie, for Mads Pedersen, I'd be quite annoyed because, of course, solidarity with the farmers, but this was a really good stage for him where it had that really steep, I would say, Rampes and Humanas kind of style sprint finale in Bellegarde, which is like a staple of the Etoile de Bessèges. I love this stage. Happens every year. Arnaud Delis won it last year, I believe. And Coquar's won it in the past. But it's like this really strange sprinting uphill finale that reaches 10%. Nevertheless, stage 2 is where the race actually started. Confusing, I know. Axel Laurence took the win, the man who won the under-23 world title here in Glasgow. He took that one ahead of Mads Pedersen, Kevin Vauquelin, and Kevin Geniet. The battle of the Kevins. Great win for Axel Laurence. The Frenchman, who's had a really good sort of 12 months, you have to say. Mads Pedersen took the following stage, however, in Besseges, ahead of Milan Mente of Lotto Destiny, who had a fantastic 2023, and Rasmus Tille, the former Norwegian champion for Uno X Mobility. This put Mads Pedersen in the leader's jersey, a jersey that he didn't lose until the end of this race. The next stage on stage 4 to Megène-le-Clap. Samuel Leroux took the win for Van Rysel-Roubaix, formerly known as Lille Metropole-Roubaix. They might have had another name by then. The team that wears the very, very pink kit. That was one from a breakaway with Stefan Bissegger of EF Education first, and Dries de Bont, who I completely forgot moved to Decathlon. He was riding for Alpecin de Koning before, Giro stage winner in the past, former Belgian national champion. He finished in 3rd place, whilst Jonas Wiedebaerje took the sprint win in the peloton, a rider who just moved to Uno X Mobility in the off-season. Then finally, the iconic uphill time trial that we end at Etoile de Bessèges happened once more. It was a good day for EF Education first, with 5 riders in the top 10, but they didn't take the win. That went to Normandy's very own Kevin Vauquelin, who took the win ahead of Mads Pedersen and Alberto Bettiol, who finished in 3rd place. That's also your top 3, but not in that order in the GC. Mads Pedersen took the overall win, just 2 seconds ahead of Vauquelin, with Alberto Bettiol in 3rd, Ben Healy in 4th, and Rémi Orchaz, the new signing for Groupama Français des Jeux, in 5th. There we go.
I honestly think if stage 1 happened, I think it would have ended very similar to how stage 2 did. I think it would have been a very similar top 10. It would have been Laurence. It would have been Pedersen. It would have been Geniet. I think it would have been those sorts of riders who would have been there. So it basically, I think it wouldn't have changed the GC by having that additional stage in there. However, it would have been nice to have that there. I don't know. I'm not sure what to take from this race, because we've seen Vauquelin do well in early season French stage races before.
You guys were all over him last year.
Well, being realistic.
Okay, the 3 of us were the ardently cheerleaders, but you two, yeah. Kevin Vauquelin, you were having some great moments about him.
But this is fun.
True.
It's
the face says it all about you.
It's true. He's building better this time. Trust me. He's only like 22. Yeah. I think that it was a really impressive TT from Vauquelin. I honestly thought Pedersen was going to win. But I think the main thing is that like Pedersen was always sort of a favourite for this race, and he just, pretty easily took control of it. So yeah, I don't know what this means for Pedersen, honestly, because of course he is building towards a very, very busy year. Very similar to last year, you could say, in terms of kind of the number of race days and the number of serious events that he's going to, like the high caliber ones. But he's not up against that kind of competition here, so I'm not sure whether this is just kind of like, whether to just kind of take this as this is just kind of good form, or whether to actually read something into this.
All I'm saying is that Vauquelin has improved on last year. Last year he finished 4th in this race. This year he finished 2nd overall. The Tour des Alpes-Maritimes et du Var is coming up very, very soon. And I'm just going to say, we're going to see a Kevin Vauquelin earthquake in the south of France. It's going to be felt all around Europe. And Kevin Vauquelin is going to light up the score sheets in 2024. Last year, he gave us a little bit of an amuse-bouche into what he could bring to the world of cycling. And this year, it's going to be the full main course. But I mean, there isn't really much you can take away from this week, I'll be honest. I mean, what is there to say? It's kind of like guys who have gone well in the early part of the season before, like Milan Mente, going well. Alberto Bettiol always does well in this race. He's finished on the podium here, 3 times in the past. So, like, there's not that much we can really take away. Pedersen's also done well in this race before. Like, there's not much to analyze. But Axel Laurence, I think, rode a good race to win that first stage. It definitely goes to show that he is a talent. It's a shame he kind of got dumped last year with the B&B project folding, and he didn't really get the chance to ride as many World Tour races as he should have. But this year he's back on the World Tour team, and it'll be interesting to see what he can bring.
What about Pedersen? Do you not think this could be his year to topple the big juggernauts, get into that last echelon that he's not?
Did this race really give you a glimpse of that? Like, I'm not doubting that Pedersen is going to be up there. I think he's a great rider. He's such a hardy sprinter, and a tough day. Pedersen is fantastic. It's a shame he's around now with all these galacticos. If he were around in the mid-2010s, that man would be hoovering, vacuuming up big race wins. It's just a shame he's riding against so many like super versatile riders. We saw that at Glasgow in the Worlds, that he was incredibly strong that day, but just he's got these like super talents of Pogacar and Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel to contend with all the time. It's a shame. But I don't think this race really tells us anything that we didn't know beforehand. He'll probably go on to win at least one World Tour sprint in the next 2-3 months.
Wait, did you just call Wout van Aert a super talent? I think that's the first compliment you said of Wout van Aert ever.
Whoa.
That's so
Feeling generous on my birthday.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite, well, like you guys said, we don't know anything until we hit the cobbles, and
yeah, I think based rather solely on the world champs last year, the fact that Pedersen, like, we had these Pogacars and Wout van Aerts and Van der Poels in a complete different tier to Pedersen, and I think that if there is going to be anybody in the peloton who can breach into that category, I think Pedersen's the guy, because he was like, he was so close to being third. Like, he almost beat Pogacar on that World Champs day, and the fact that he's even there is insane. That shows he almost is on the same level.
He beat Wout.
Consolidate this. Sorry, Scott. I'm going to consolidate this by mentioning the Ronde van Vlaanderen last year as well.
Yes, exactly.
One of the most attritional monuments we've seen in a very long time. He was fantastic in that race, very daring. Maybe if he wasn't quite as daring, he would have had more left in the tank, but he left everything out on the road and still got a podium place in that race, out sprinting guys who who had easier times in the race than he had.
Like Wout van Aert.
Well, exactly, and also guys who are hanging on in that group as well, Nielsen Powers and so forth. I know they don't have the natural sprinting skill, but they weren't quite as exposed and solo as Pedersen was in that race. So I think the World Championships and the Ronde van Vlaanderen proved that he has real strength of character and real sort of fortitude. Earlier on, I was talking about longest sprints in pro cycling. One of the longest sprints we've had at the Grand Tour in a long time was that sprint in Limoges last year that Pedersen took the win at, beating guys like your Jasper Philipsens, like your Wout van Aerts, who are a little bit more sort of, they're lighter, they're more sort of built for the sprints, but Pedersen just sort of smashed it through on what was a really, really long sprint and took the win. So I definitely think if anyone's going to sort of smash through this Galacticos and win a monument this year, Pedersen's my man.
We just need Paris to be wet, and then he'll probably win it.
Even at Paris last year, he definitely showed.
Oh yeah, fourth.
Before, because he struggled at Paris. If you look at his Paris record, it's not particularly great until last year, and he was right up there again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mads Pedersen win at least one World Tour Classic this year. He should really.
Do you think Pedersen's winning a monument this year?
I don't know. I also can tell you which one it was. I'd say probably Ronde, because he's got the best record there. Yeah. But if a San Remo came down, like, he looked good at San Remo last year, definitely improving on where he was before. If he was up there in San Remo and it was more of a sort of group sprint kind of scenario, I think he could definitely be there.
Could he hang on to, can he hang on to a Van der Poel attack if it goes on the Poggio? Well, I say when it goes on the Poggio. If he does and he hangs with it and it's a one-on-one sprint, I think Pedersen hasn't.
At the same time as well, would Mads Pedersen do a Jasper Stuyven kind of thing and try to go on his own? Because People know what Pedersen could bring in a sprint. People might be a little bit afraid. He also might sort of want it to be in a sprint scenario too much. But if he was a little bit more daring and went out on his own and used that big engine that he has, does he have a better chance of winning a solo than in a sprint? Should he try to play that game? We haven't had sort of big group sprint for Sanremo for the victory since 2019. That was before the COVID paradigm shift in the sport. So maybe he has to evoke the spirit of his current teammate, Jasper Stuyven, to take the win.
I think he could do it that way for sure. I think, like you say, if people look around and like, oh gosh, Pedersen's on my wheel, there's no way I'm going to take him to the line. Maybe if you're Wout van Aert, you might fancy your chances, but I think that if you're a Pogacar, Mohoric, Van der Poel, I think you would be quite nervous of the fact of Pedersen doing that. But if you just, if Pedersen's just by himself and he's got 2 seconds, 2 seconds at the bottom of the Poggio is almost like 10 seconds in Sanremo. It's kind of weird because people just really very quickly start looking around. And we're almost focusing in that Sanremo is the one, but
I don't think it is. I think it's Paris-Roubaix. Yeah.
You think it's Roubaix? Like Ewan said, he had bad luck. Like he had a real tough Roubaix. It's very possible that he could have better luck. And he's got a good team too.
Yeah, I mean, Roubaix is probably the worst one to try and win because anything can happen, literally.
Also, I think just Roubaix breeds like uber specialists, like guys who really smash Roubaix and we don't see them elsewhere. I don't know if we've quite seen that
much. Van der Poel.
okay, but like in terms of there are guys who can get a really great result on Roubaix and not quite be there at other races. Like Kasper Asgreen, for instance, winner of Ronde of Vlaanderen, never ever top 10 Paris-Roubaix, been there like 4 or 5 times. Mads Pedersen until recently, not quite been up there. Peter Sagan until he won that race, nowhere to be seen in Paris-Roubaix. Like Ronda is the most obvious in terms of his track record. Once again, it's a shame that he's around at the same time as Van der Poel and Pogacar, who are so good at that kind of profile. Because can he beat both of them? Don't quite know, unless it's like a sprint scenario. But can he beat Van der Poel in a reduced bunch sprint?
Asgreen beat him.
No, but we all remember.
That is true. That is true. Again,
you just remember like that. It's just when they attack up the Paterberg, like we all remember it. Like it's just such a savage attack. When Van der Poel and Pogacar go, I'm just like, I really just struggle to see anybody, like even Van Aert. I just really think that it's like Pogacar and Van der Poel. Maybe that's just the recency bias of last year kind of playing, but I just think it's just going to be really hard for Pedersen to follow it. But I do think that he could do it. If he's got absolutely magic legs and he's had a really good day up to that point and hasn't had to deal with any mechanicals or setbacks, and he's got the freshest legs possible, it's possible he could hang in.
Lombardia? Are we saying he wins Tour of Lombardy?
How much you want to know? You do this one.
Yeah. You'll also slide him into it.
Nobody's beating Tadej.
Yeah, no one's beating Tadej. Like
Lombardia.
It's such a hard era to be like a sort of 5th best puncher in the world because like there's such like a big like upper echelon of guys and you got the couple in between. I think Pedersen's not far off being a Galactico. He has like really strong results. He's a world champion for Christ's sake,
The best world champ.
Well, that was a banging world championships.
Absolutely.
That was, yeah.
It was banging.
It was quite good.
In terms of the men's race, at least, E3 or Haynes Babelham may be a little bit more realistic this year.
Yeah.
Sorry to rain on his parade.
It's true. No, because Matteo Jorgensen is actually winning those. I've already called it. Matteo Jorgensen is winning E3.
It's going to be Matteo Jorgensen and Wout van Aert coming across the line holding hands, and Wout van Aert gives the win to Matteo Jorgensen because Wout's going to win next week at Ronda. Wait.
I've never heard that one before.
But anyways, we might as well move on. There were national championships going on. No, it's not July already. We had South Africa's national championships going on. Ryan Gibbons winning the road race, and I think he won the TT as well. And then we also had the Ecuador national championships as well, where the winner in the time trial was Richard Carapaz, but it was not him in the road race. Who was it?
No, it was the very informed Jonathan Narvaez of Ineos Grenadiers. He took that ahead of Carapaz, who finished in 2nd place. 3rd place goes to Jefferson Alvedo Cepeda. That's the one who rides for Caruel. Whilst Jefferson Alexander Cepeda, the one who rides for EF, finished in 4th place. Really wish their parents gave them different names. Nevertheless, Narvaez just carrying on the really great form he had in Australia. He was fantastic in Tour Down Under and at the Ocean Road Race thing and that silly little criterium beforehand. So cool to see him win that. And if you look at the podium celebration, they bring out this like hog roast. Like they're all on the podium and there's this huge tray of what I think is like just like a hog roasted pig. Narvaez and Carapaz just like eat a little bit off this hog roast whilst they're on the podium. I wish I had more context for our Ecuadorian viewers out there. Can you please give us a little bit of context as to why there was a cooked pig presented to Jonathan Narvaez after winning his national championships? But this does also put an end to an iconic era. Let's light a candle in memory of the very, very cool Ecuadorian EF national champions jersey, particularly the one for this season. We'll see in the time trials, but like not really. So it's a real it's a no, but like time trial stages aren't really like big deals.
And you're saying that Richard Carapaz is not someone we're going to see in a time trial, basically.
Well, there's only like 10, 12 time trial stages per year. So like that's like minimal amount. And if he goes so early we don't get it on camera, then what's the point? It's only like 30 minutes. If it's a prologue, we only get that jersey on screen for 6 minutes. Come on. I want that jersey back. Ineos Grenadiers, you better do a good job. If they don't do a good job, which they probably won't, I will demand that Narvaez ceremonially hands that national champions title to Richard Carapaz in the name of fashion and style and taste.
But I mean, staying on Carapaz, you had some insightful, few nuggets of Carapaz. Obviously, last year he didn't quite achieve the big bill that he was brought to the team because of a crash on stage 1 of the Tour de France. But yeah, what's kind of the murmurs around Richard Carapaz?
Well, definitely a disappointing Tour de France last year. He crashed on day 1. You spoke to Jonathan Walters last year about how he got Richard Carapaz and the big effort that the team and the sponsors put into actually securing the rider and making sure they have a legitimate Grand Tour contender for 2023. Didn't quite go to plan, but this week Jonathan Walters in the media was talking about Carapaz being the most talented GC rider they've had on that team in any iteration. So it's going to be interesting to see what this team, what Carapaz will bring this year, given that he's got such backing within the EF setup, despite the fact he hasn't really given them any major results so far. A win last year at the Mercantour Alpes Classic in the south of France is the only thing really to go by, alongside, I mean, a strong sort of Italian classic season towards the end, but no real victories, not even a sort of World Tour race podium, apart from a day he sprinted well in the Critérium du Dauphiné when he lost out to Jules-Philippe in La Chaise Dieu. So definitely in need of really proving himself this year, otherwise he could fade into obscurity very quickly, especially once those golden armbands disappear. Well, they won't disappear, but they'll become a lot less important after the Paris Olympic Games, assuming that he doesn't win on that cobble course through Montmartre, which I don't think he will.
That's very true. I'm just looking back through EF's teams through the years, and Scott has informed me before recording that I can't go back to the Liquid Cannondale days.
Doesn't count.
To look for talented riders. And I will admit, Carapaz is probably the most talented one that they...
Really? 2017, Oran was second in the Tour?
Different era, though.
Yeah, but I mean, Voktis has the numbers, so he knows his riders better than 3 people having a cycling podcast. So
I just felt, that's a different era of cycling. Like you said, there was a shift after COVID, and the fact that Carapaz was on the podium of the Tour post-COVID, I think is more impressive to me, even if it was a step lower than Oran finishing in second place prior to COVID in the Froome era. That's just my take on it. So I would say that Carapaz probably is the most kind of high-profile GC rider they have, and that's definitely proved by how much they pay him, which is, always been rumoured to be like 2 million, whatever, a year. Don't quote me on that. That's just like, random numbers get thrown around that nobody really has any sources for. So, yeah, I think the Carapaz, I don't really know what I expect from him this year. I think he really needs to be top 5 in the Tour to be like, a for EF to be quite happy with him. They've put a lot into him, and considering that they got very little out of him last year, like Ewan was saying, giving us a rundown of the results from 2023, I think that this does need to be a good year for Carapaz, for sure.
You'd very quickly turn into a sort of flash in the pan kind of rider. It is incredibly impressive. Like, his Grand Tour record is fantastic. Removes last year's Tour de France, of course, but he's been on the podium at an awful lot of these races. He's finished on the podium of a Grand Tour in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. That's fantastic. Pogacar and Roglic are the only people to... No, actually, Roglic hasn't even done that. Pogacar is the only person to have done that. So it definitely shows his like longevity, and I also think his expertise in racing. He does have quite a good sixth sense in racing. We saw that, I think, really displayed in Turin on that Giro stage back in 2022, where he really sort of ripped that race up. I know Bora did a lot of the work, but Carapaz had the instinct to sort of go for it and make the GC race a little bit more attritional in the end, and brought it sort of filtered it just to himself and Hindley in the final couple of kilometers of that stage. And when he won the Giro back in 2019, there were some great tactics on show during that race. I don't think we've seen that level of Carapaz, even in terms of his tactics over the past 12 months. We saw some silly Carapaz tactics at the Dauphiné last year. At that stage, the first stage Jonas won in particular, he was a little bit sort of chaotic on that one. We just need to see him get back to his form. But I love this team. But have we really seen cohesion in supporting Carapaz in the past 12 months at EF?
It just kind of seems like it's just a team which got so much promise, like your Chavez's and all those other South American riders, like, and Paulus and stuff, but it never seems to really form together into a, like you say, a cohesive unit. Carapaz, I don't think this year wins a Grand Tour, just because there's Poggy and there's literally every man and his dog of a tour. And then at the Vuelta, there's going to be Jonas. He's going there. And basically, I just think that as long as there's one of a Pogacar or a Jonas at a Grand Tour, I just don't think Carapaz is winning. But if you were to remove those galacticos people, like those proper top echelon people, do you think that Carapaz could win a Grand Tour if he goes there without any one of those?
In other words, he could finish second at the Giro.
Yeah, basically.
Yates against Carapaz would be an interesting battle. Yates is better in time trialing, but they're both quite similar riders in terms of their profile. But I think Carapaz is probably one of the better of the non-galacticos, but I think the results from last year have definitely made me doubt that more than I would have, 12 months ago. I think I would have said Carapaz should be up there fighting for third place at the Tour de France. But now I'm thinking, I don't really know if it even get top 5 at this year's Tour de France. Yes, we have more galacticos, but I think there is a bit more of a chasm between him and even the people who will be the super domestiques. Your Jai Hindleys, your Adam Yateses, help me out here, Sasha Vlasovs, Ayuso Almeida, etc. Maybe.
Yeah, literally. I know what you mean. Like, the biggest difference to last, even just 2 years, hasn't been really the top level riders. It's been the supporting cast rising up to support those riders who have now infiltrated the top 10. It isn't just leader, maybe one super domestique occupying an eighth. It's the super domestiques are now on the podium places as well. This is getting towards when Froome and Landa were kind of going on the same team in Sky back in 2017 time. Yeah, so it is going to be really hard. I'm with you, and I'd see Carapaz's position for this year being more of a 6th to 8th sort of candidate than a 4th, 5th.
What I would like to see in that case is the Richard Carapaz of the Vuelta a España 2022, where he went on to win a number of stages in the breakaway and got the polka dot jersey, and he used that race savviness and that flair that he has in a breakaway setting. That was really exciting to see, that once the GC was over, boom, he flipped into this new role. I think it'll be really interesting to see him perform that at the Tour de France next year. Will someone let Carapaz go off in the first week of racing, particularly when we have those high point stages to Pinerolo and the other one to, is it Self Chevalier, or wherever it is, that goes over the Galibier, on those high point days? Will someone let Carapaz go away in the breakaway that early on in the race? Maybe not. But hoovering up those points in the breakaway later on in next year's Tour de France could be a real way of him getting something out of that race, and for EF to get something. They don't win Tour de France stages very often, let's not forget. For them to win the polka dot jersey, that'll be a huge deal.
For €2 million, you want the polka dot jersey? Okay, I'm a big fan of the polka dot jersey, but...
Okay. 6th place in GC. Or...
Yeah, I know.
Stage wins and polka dots. What's better out of the Tour de France?
I mean, if you ask Alexander Vinokourov, when Fuglsang was finishing 6th, 7th, he said that he would have preferred him to win a stage win because nobody remembers the lower top 10s in the next year's Tour de France. Who finished 8th in last year's Tour de France? Exactly. This basis says it all. Exactly. There we go. So, yeah, it's valid. A stage win is more valuable than an 8th or a 9th. Or a 6th or whatever.
Remember Felix Gal? Anyways.
Yeah. But he got a stage win, so he was okay.
I remember the stage win of Cordel Osmore.
Exactly. But, I mean, maybe Carapaz could try to do like a Felix Gal of like top 10 and stage win, because that's quite nice. And that's quite a decent way to have a Tour de France. But Felix Gal and Richard Carapaz are on two different echelons. Richard Carapaz is a former Grand Tour winner here. One of the probably top 15 most paid riders in the peloton. I don't know what that gets at. The article said. Scott, you were in the loop about that one. Is he top 10?
No, he's not. But Tom Pidcock is paid a lot of money, according to that article.
Yeah, but think about all the baked beans eating, flag waving British people out there.
And I mean, they have a lot of money as well.
Exactly. But is Carapaz actually going to win a World Tour stage race this year? I don't know.
Brandon McNulty's winning more stage races.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
No, okay, World Tour level.
If the Galacticos
stand by it,
don't go. Like if Jonas and Pogačar and Remco and Roglic don't go, Carapaz will probably win one. But I just refuse to believe that there is. I don't think there's a World Tour level stage race where one of those four isn't ever in attendance.
Romandy,
that's it. That's where Richard Carapaz will get his.
But Ayuso might be there. Ayuso might
silly season.
No. Yeah. That's the conclusion from this. Carapaz and Jorgensen are going to battle it out for Tour Romandy. But anyways, to conclude our birthday edition, so this is a very special Rider of the Week. Who are you going to bestow this very honourable accolade onto this week?
I don't know. I've got two riders in mind. One of them made me look smart, and the other one actually did really well. I'll go with one who made me look smart. I'm going to give my Rider of the Week to Matej Mohoric for having the absolute coolies of fully broadcasting that he was going to go for a stage. Everybody knew it was going to happen, and then he went and did it anyway, and there was nothing that anybody could do about it. It was a descending masterclass. It was pure elegance on a descent, and for that, I really respect that Mohoric made my prediction correct. So thank you, Matej. You're my Rider of the Week.
Okay, my Rider of the Week is going to be an American, and for this, cowboy hat time. Yeehaw, it's Will Barta of Movistar. He took a stage win at Comunità Valenciana, and I am all over this because I think Will Barta is criminally slept on as a rider. Almost world stage back in 2020, and how different his life would have been, his career would have been if he took that stage win. He was dumped by CCC when that team folded. EF gave him a lifeline at very much the last minute, and then EF didn't renew his contract after a very disappointing 2021. 2022, he ended up at Movistar, and he's found a little bit of a home. It took some time to fit in, but he's doing well now. And that breakaway win, I think, was really, really nice to see him get his first professional victory for a rider who has deserved so much more and promised so much in his youth days. He's also from the potato state, Idaho. So for that, who else is from Idaho? No one's from Idaho. So fair enough. Will Barta, you were my Rider of the Week. I'm going to take this off now.
I mean, a week where you had both Alberto Bettiol and Alexander Vlasov on podiums, and you give it to Will Barta.
I picked Vlasov last week, and
he finished on podium.
He's got more to give. He has a lot more to give. I'm telling you. We've been talking, and there are big plans for the spring. That's all I'm saying. Strada Bianca in his own backyard in Lombardy. That's where, not Lombardy, Tuscany, wrong region. That's where he's going to see his own success. The Tuscan tornado. Speaking of which, did you see the tornado at the Alula Tour?
Yeah, it almost took William Jr. Leclerc off his freaking bike, probably. Poor little guy.
It was the spirit of the Tuscan tornado, Alberto Bettiol, reminding everybody a storm is brewing on the white roads of Tuscany in just 4 weeks' time.
Oh gosh, yeah. Outside of the echelons, about the only interesting thing that happened in those sand-ridden races is when a freaking duster comes along. Anyway, Scott, who's your rider of the week?
I mean,
it's only 20 days to Omloop as well. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. I mean, the obvious choice is Mads Pedersen, but I can't keep picking Danes. I kind of want to go with Brandon McNulty because we talked about it last week, and then he goes and does it. But as an Ecuadorian friend of mine has said, Richard Carapaz is uber famous in Ecuador, and Jonathan Narvaez gets hardly any attention. So I'm going to pick the new Ecuadorian national champion. I think it's his second or third time.
Yeah, he had it back in Quick Step days.
So I'm going to go with him because Brandon McNulty, he had a lot of love from us. Well, not you, last week. And Patrick. So anyways, that is basically it for our birthday. No, wait. Oh, you're going to do the cake.
All I'm going to say is whilst doing Rider of the Week, I just carved out what might be this. I can't even show you guys. That was a really stupid idea. What might be the saddest slice of cake you've ever seen.
Wait, that cake was full at the beginning. What have you done, Ewan?
No, I haven't eaten it all.
It's just half.
Once again, wow, you're really getting a behind the scenes shot here. Whoa. Oh, wow.
I know it's nice. That's how much is gone.
When I tell you this cost me like €1 from Lidl, 85 pence for our British viewers.
They take euros in.
No, I was just doing the quick conversion.
Hashtag flex. Hashtag I know the immediate currency exchange.
Here's a euro, take it.
I had to leave it to defrost for a couple hours. But here's to 1 year of this crazy podcast, this crazy journey. Thank you everybody listening and subscribing for sticking around. It's been a wild ride. I don't know if anybody else wants to say a little birthday message. Make a wish. You know, I wish for world peace. I wish for Sasha Vlasov to be on a Grand Tour podium. And I wish for Alberto Bettiol to win Strada Bianca. Here's to many more years.
Did you say 1 more year? Is that your expiry date?
Just
I don't know why I went for 1 more year. Maybe I was being pragmatic.
We're going to hit big heights, man.
I'm like a rider at Quick Step. I go on a year-by-year basis.
Or Lewis Hamilton.
Oof.
Full circle.
Full circle. I don't know what I wish for. I wish for the end of these damn Middle Eastern races.
Wow.
I hate sand.
I wish for Mads Pedersen to win a monument.
Oh, yeah, true. I hope Tadej wins the Tour, not Jonas.
Boo.
It would be fun if, no, I kind of want Roglic to win the Tour.
Anybody but Jonas, actually. I'll change my answer. Just somebody different.
How big of a flame do I need for that to happen?
Set my house on fire.
Which flags do I have to burn? Jonas may go to not win the Tour de France.
I don't have anything against Jonas. It's just he's won twice in a row now. I just want somebody else to do it. It's nothing personal. It's just Grinter.
Well, on that light note, this has been episode 54, and thank you everyone for subscribing, commenting, as Ewan said as well, and you can check us out on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts as well. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week where it's the Tour of Colombia. That will be quite interesting.
Also Tour de la Provence.
Yeah, actually, that's quite good.
Tour of Oman starts.
Yay!
It's another Middle Eastern race.